On July 4, 2026, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs issued a direct mandate, a 13% hike in onion procurement prices, setting the new rate at 2,125 rupees per quintal. You are the District Agriculture Marketing Officer. Your desk is where this macro-level mandate turns into a ground-level reality, and you have exactly 1 week to roll out the procurement centers across your district. The rollout immediately triggers a conflict. Farmers in your district desperately need this higher price to recover from successive seasons of crushing losses. But urban consumer groups are already protesting, knowing this procurement hike will bleed into retail prices and strain families already struggling with food inflation. You are looking at two highly vulnerable populations. Relying on basic economic intuition or personal empathy alone creates a systemic blind spot. A solution tailored to the farmer's struggle can unintentionally accelerate the consumer's food insecurity. A single target emotional response cannot account for the stability of the entire district. To resolve this crisis, we will use moral philosophy as a strict algorithmic filter to engineer a balanced administrative response. Every administrator faces 3 foundational dilemmas: balancing producer welfare against consumer protection, weighing short-term financial relief against long-term market stability, and navigating the line between administrative neutrality and social sensitivity. This grid maps the exact pressures activating within your district. At the top, the farmers seek to secure this higher price to guarantee a sustainable income while fearing a future market crash. Below them is the urban consumer. The mechanism that satisfies the farmer's interest directly triggers the consumer's primary concern, a spike in the cost of basic nutrition. Then there is the third variable, the local trader. Middlemen operate in the space between the farm and the city, and their presence introduces the specific, systemic risk of hoarding to manipulate the supply and inflate profits. Your operational constraint is rigid. The state government requires your comprehensive rollout plan for the procurement centers in 7 days. You must execute the price hike while explicitly preventing the market manipulation we just identified. Mapping these competing vulnerabilities and hidden threats is the mandatory baseline. Only with this matrix in place can we start passing the policy through our ethical frameworks to solve the crisis. We push the raw 2,125 rupee directive through specific philosophical nodes to refine our action. The first node, John Rawls' theory of justice, requires us to benefit the least advantaged. Here, the path splits, because both marginal farmers and the urban poor qualify. Rawls establishes a strict constraint. Any trade-off between these two demographics is only justified if the absolute weakest group does not fall below a basic standard of survival. Next, the policy drops to the utilitarian framework of Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. This node calculates total societal welfare, weighing the collective financial benefit to the agricultural sector against the collective economic pain of the consumers. But Mill warns against the tyranny of the majority. We cannot use the massive total welfare generated for the agricultural sector as an excuse to ignore the concentrated harm inflicted on the urban poor. Utilitarianism provides the economic justification for the price hike, but Rawlsian justice demands that we build administrative safeguards to protect the consumer from the fallout. We move to the micro-ethical level with Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. This node defines your absolute, binding duty to the government's mandate. Kant requires you to execute the rollout of the procurement centers efficiently and impartially, completely independent of the downstream economic anxieties. Your duty is to the process itself. Procedural integrity requires a counterweight, which we find in Mahatma Gandhi's talisman. The talisman forces a specific visualization. Recall the face of the poorest person you have seen, and ask if the step you contemplate is going to be of use to them. Applying Gandhi's framework to our district demands a dual action response. Opening the centers fulfills the duty to the struggling farmer, but we must simultaneously deploy measures that protect the slum dweller buying retail. This establishes the core paradox of civil administration. Kant mandates the flawless execution of the action, while Gandhi mandates the proactive mitigation of its harm. The final stress test comes from Amartya Sen's capability approach, which evaluates the policy's real-world impact on human development. SEN requires us to differentiate between providing a temporary income patch through the price hike and building the long-term market stability that expands the actual capabilities of the farmers. Our data is now fully filtered. We can construct a decision tree evaluating 3 distinct administrative reactions to the government mandate. Path 1 is the neutral bureaucrat. You open the centers and do nothing else. We reject this. While it satisfies Kant, it ignores the requirements of justice and empathy established by Gandhi and Rawls. Path 3 is escalation, passing the problem back up to the state government without taking action. We reject this as well. It violates your procedural duty and demonstrates a lack of courage of conviction. This systematic elimination leaves Path 2 as the most robust strategy, satisfying the procedural, empathetic, and developmental requirements of the role. Path 2 is the balanced approach, built on 3 operational pillars. The first pillar fulfills your procedural duty by executing a swift, transparent rollout of the procurement centers so farmers receive their higher prices immediately. The second pillar is the consumer mitigation strategy. You propose activating state-subsidized public distribution system outlets to insulate the urban poor from resulting retail inflation. The third pillar targets market integrity. You install transparent digital records and public price display boards at every center, establishing an immediate surveillance grid to crush hoarding by middlemen. This sequence of action synthesizes the requirement of policy implementation with the proactive mitigation of its negative externalities. Administrative maturity is the art of managing competing vulnerabilities simultaneously. In a UPSC GS4 case study, translate this logical derivation into a structured answer wireframe: introduction, dilemmas, stakeholder matrix, course of action, and conclusion. To elevate the authority of your answer, use precise administrative vocabulary: distributive justice for Rawls, empathy for Gandhi, courage of conviction when rejecting Path 3, and strict accountability to counter the hoarders. Utilizing terminology like public versus sectional interest signals objective competence to the examiner, proving you execute a rigorous analytical process rather than an emotional reaction. This logical structure cross-links directly to GS3 questions analyzing agricultural economics, minimum support prices, and national buffer stock policies. In civil service, the raw economic policy is merely the mechanical engine. The ethical frameworks we applied today are the steering wheel, required to keep that policy on the road and deliver true justice.